Yeah, I mean, I think in many ways that was the conversation that was happening, that I could see in my childhood between the generation of my grandparents and the generation of my parents, and I was essentially, witnessing, right? This idea of, how much do you believe in the supposed values of your society or institution, right? You have this idea of, especially of in the United States, this sort of American exceptionalism, right? Our propaganda of all men created equal, right? And the idea that certainly of the immigrant generation, of my grandparents' generation, of thinking that whoever would believe that is so naive, and that in fact the first step to being killed is believing that, right? And that how not just assimilation, but how assimilation to the point of death, it begins by believing what a state tells you. Believing that a state says, here we believe in life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. Here all people are equal. Here we extend equal rights, equal protections under the law to all people, all minorities, irrespective of gender, race, ethnicity, blah, 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 blah. That's the kind of thing that if it was said in front of my grandfather, he would tell me to fuck off. I'm sorry, it was just like, are you a child still? It's like, we have heard this. How many times do you have to hear this before you realize that that is the first lie? And then, of course, you have the response to that, which is, well, if we all can begin believing it, then possibly we can avert the historical disasters that my grandparents were victims of, right? And I found myself, generationally speaking, in the United States, but even more so in Israel, right? Constantly coming up against an accusation of naivete, right? This is a very common thing, as I just said, in the United States, right? To younger people who are interested in social justice movements, of older people telling them how naive they are. But in an Israeli context, one of the most normal accusations, let's say, between Mizrahim and Ashkenazim is how naive are you? We, the Mizrahim, right, grew up in Arab countries. We had Arabs as neighbors. We know these people. You don't. You are naive. And it's this idea of political naivete and naivete that is associated with weakness that has always interested me as a subject, because to truly accuse someone who believes in liberalism of being naive is, in my mind, the first step to disaster, right? And so I wanted to investigate these two different approaches to liberalism, whether it's something that is only for the weak, with a neoliberal